The markets are closed, but the business stories are just heating up. Hello, I'm Mai Rodriguez. Catch up with us on Business Brief. Shares are mixed in Asia as the U.S. government enters a shutdown, with Chinese markets closed for a holiday. Hong Kong's Hang Seng and China's Shanghai Composite are shut for the break. Japan's Nikkei and Australia's ASX slip, while other regional indexes trade higher. In currencies, the U.S. dollar holds steady against the South Korean won and Hong Kong dollar, but weakens against most other Asian currencies. The Australian dollar, meanwhile, drops against the greenback. In commodities, gold adds 0.5%, while oil prices are mixed. In crypto, Bitcoin rises 0.2%, while Ethereum slips nearly 1%. The U.S. federal government has officially shut down after a deadlocked Congress failed to pass a funding measure to keep the lights on. Republicans and Democrats are blaming each other for the first government shutdown in nearly 7 years. The Senate will vote again on Wednesday on the same funding plan. Republican leaders vowed to put the proposal on the floor when enough Democrats yield and agree to reopen the government. The shutdown means hundreds of thousands of federal employees will be furloughed. Others who are considered essential will have to keep reporting for work, but many will not get paid until the impasse ends. The U.S. government shutdown will weigh in on the U.S. dollar. Angelo Taninco, chief economist at Security Bank, tells BNC's Business 360 this could provide some support for the Philippine peso. The shutdown comes after President Donald Trump and Congress failed to reach a deal to keep government programs and services running by Wednesday's deadline.
It also could lower U.S. Treasury yields, especially at the longer end. And therefore, this could also cascade into lower government securities yields as well for us. U.S. equities could be dampened by a U.S. government shutdown, especially if prolonged. But historically, over the past 20 shutdowns by the U.S. government, the average effect on S&P 500 return is close to nil, especially after the shutdown takes effect.
The country's balance of payments is projected to remain in deficit over the next 2 years due to global headwinds. The Bangko Sentral says it's expected to register a deficit of $6.9 billion this year, up from an earlier projection of $6.3 billion. For 2026, the central bank also revises its deficit forecast to $3.4 billion, higher than the previous estimate of $2.8 billion. The BSP notes the deficit persists due to sustained pressures on the current account. Dozens of people are dead in the magnitude 6.9 quake that hit Cebu and neighboring provinces Tuesday night. As of 12 noon, the death toll is at 53, according to Cebu Governor Pam Baricuatro. Speaking on BNC's The Daily Dish, Baricuatro said this number could still rise as retrieval and rescue operations continue. She adds 175 people were injured. The governor also says the quake caused about 3 billion pesos worth of damage to structures. She's appealing for immediate assistance from the national government.
Last night, we already engaged the national government, no? We just need maybe later, after all the emergency response is done, financial assistance for those people affected, yung mga bahay nila na nasira. So, yun lang. But for now, we need packed meals, we need cooked meals, water, and of course, yung ibang towns, wala pa ring electricity.
President Bongbong Marcos extends his sympathies to the victims of the Cebu quake. In a statement, the president says help is underway for all affected areas. The chief executive also urges residents to remain on alert and heed the advice of the local government. In other news, the Bureau of Customs takes custody of all 30 luxury vehicles linked to the so-called King and Queen of flood control projects, Curly and Sara Discaya. Officials say 13 cars were seized under warrant and the rest are under audit. Zeus Valdez is on the line for the details. Zeus, go ahead.
Mai, the Bureau of Customs has ordered the seizure of 13 luxury vehicles allegedly tied to the Discaya family after investigators flagged irregularities in their importation documents. The vehicles were part of 30 high-end units discovered in September during a search at the Pasig City compound of St. Gerard Construction General Contractor and Development Corp., a company owned by the Discayas. All 30 units are now under BOC custody. According to Port of Manila District Collector Alexander Gerard E. Alviar, a warrant of seizure and detention was issued for 13 vehicles, including a Toyota Tundra, Toyota Cignal, Rolls-Royce Cullinan, Mercedes-Benz AMG G63 SUV, Mercedes-Benz G500, Lincoln Navigator 2021 and 2024 models, Bentley Bentayga, GMC Yukon Denali, Cadillac Escalade 2021 and ESV variants, Maserati Levante Modena, and a GMC Yukon XL Denali. The remaining 17 units are now undergoing transaction audit by the Post-Clearance Audit Group. Customs officials confirmed that the Discaya-linked vehicles are part of a broader sweep with other luxury cars owned by high-profile personalities, also under close monitoring as part of intensified efforts to crack down on smuggling. The Discaya family is likewise under scrutiny at the Senate in connection with alleged irregularities in flood control projects, further putting pressure on their business dealings and assets. Zeus Valdez, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
Thank you for that report, Zeus Valdez. The Commission on Audit flags the government service insurance system for pouring 2.3 billion pesos into companies that did not meet its own investment rules. The COA says the pension fund invested in Alternergy, SP New Energy, and the Bank of Commerce, even though two of them had no 3-year profit record or dividend history. Officials say they recommended a recovery plan, but warn that current market conditions make selling the shares unfavorable. GSIS President Wick Veloso confirmed a plan is already in place and notes he was not yet at the helm when the investments were made. The audit also noted the fund's 2024 investment in DigiPlus was not yet covered by this review. The Independent Commission for Infrastructure will invite Senator and former Public Works Secretary Mark Villar and former House Speaker Martin Romualdez to its probe on the flood control scandal. ICI Executive Director Brian Hosaka says Romualdez had already been invited, but the commission is unsure if it was received. Romualdez is accused of receiving kickbacks from infrastructure projects, an allegation he calls pure fiction. Zaldico of Ako Bicol party list, who resigned as lawmaker, is also accused of getting billions of pesos in kickbacks from infra projects. New names surface in the flood control corruption scandal as the Discaya couple testify before the Independent Commission on Infrastructure. Their lawyer says the couple is fully cooperative and have named more individuals involved with a supplemental affidavit to follow. Much of their testimony had already been shared with Congress, but the new disclosures could widen the investigation. The Discayas, whose assets are already frozen, are expected to return to the commission to complete their statement. We're taking a short break. More stories are up next. You're watching Business Brief. DDMP REIT Incorporated approves a regular cash dividend for common shareholders amounting to over 422 million pesos. In its disclosure, the company says the dividend will be given to shareholders of record as of October 30, with payment set for November 26. Manila Water Company announces the closing of its acquisition of WAWAJVCO Incorporated from Prime Infrastructure Incorporated. In its disclosure, the company confirms that all closing conditions for the transaction have been complied with as of September 30. This follows earlier disclosures made in June and August, marking the formal completion of the deal. Southeast Asia's agriculture ministers gathered today for the opening ceremony of the 47th ASEAN Ministers Summit for Agriculture and Forestry in Manila. Paulo Barcelon is on the line for us for the highlights. Hi, Paulo. What can you tell us?
Among those expected to be discussed in the forum are the impact of the country's rice import ban. Agriculture spokesperson Arnel de Mesa says, while they have not yet received any formal requests from nations where the country is buying rice from, such as Thailand and Vietnam, bilateral meetings with Manila and Hanoi are already being done on the sidelines. De Mesa also says the meeting is aimed at strengthening cooperation between Southeast Asian ministers on various issues on agriculture and forestry. Agricultural trade and investment, food security, climate change, sustainable agriculture and forestry management are also on the menu, as the region's agri-environment ministers will also talk to their +3 counterparts from China, Japan, and South Korea tomorrow. Now, a press conference is also scheduled tomorrow at 4 p.m. Manila time, where major highlights are expected to be delivered. And Assistant Secretary de Mesa says areas hit by the Cebu quake will be allocated slots of the government's 20 peso per kilo rice program to help address food needs of residents. Mai.
Paulo, the DA did confirm that there were ghost farm-to-market road projects in Mindanao. Where are these located and how much do they cost?
Well, Maya, according to spokesperson De Mesa, the cost of these ghost farm-to-market road projects in Mindanao cost 125 million pesos in total, spanning 4 years from 2021 up to the present year. Now, they located 7 in Davao Occidental and 2 in Lanao del Sur. The DA says an audit has already been started regarding these projects, and they have seen that these projects are incomplete, but according to the records of the DPWH, they had been completed. Now, also according to ASEC De Mesa, the contractors involved in these farm-to-market roads are all local contractors and are not part of the top 15 contractors that President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. announced as having won the most number of projects. Mai.
Thank you for that report, Paulo Barcelon. The Philippines retains a Tier 1 ranking in the U.S. State Department's 2025 Trafficking in Persons report, the highest possible grade and a strong boost to the country's global reputation. The recognition cites the country's serious and sustained efforts to combat human trafficking. However, the report also warns of persistent vulnerabilities, including online sexual exploitation, labor trafficking, and the treatment of victims in online scam operations. The report says the government fully meets the minimum standards for eliminating trafficking. It notes continued prosecutions, victim protection programs, and prevention campaigns for business and investors. Retaining Tier 1 status is crucial. It keeps the Philippines free from U.S. sanctions, protects access to development aid, and maintains credibility with global trading and investment partners. AirAsia Philippines is aiming to reach 6 million passengers by the end of 2025, building on 4 million flown so far this year. On BNC's Business 360, AirAsia Communications head Steve Delisan said the focus is on enhancing leisure destinations while opening more gateways to boost traveler numbers. He cited the Cebu hub as an example where the airline has opened additional flights to Kuala Lumpur and Macau, making travel affordable and accessible to southern passengers.
for Cebu, at least, we're opening Kuala Lumpur flights. That's 14 times weekly, and Macau flights, a value-driven alternative gateway to Hong Kong, which is about an hour and a half only away from Macau, and way, relatively cheaper. Prior to going to the program, Mikey, I checked on the fares. And if you fly from Cebu to Macau, and if you take AirAsia beginning November 15, that's only about 2,500 pesos one way versus the 10 to 15,000 pesos worth of airfare if you fly from Manila. And imagine for Cebuanos, that's already a huge saving since they don't have to fly to Manila to get to their destination.
To support this growth, AirAsia also plans to expand their fleet with 2 new aircraft in 2026. The Philippine Coast Guard deploys the BRP Teresa Magbanua to quake-hit Cebu. It is transporting doctors, nurses, and other medical personnel with emergency equipment from Manila. The mission is in line with the directive of President Bongbong Marcos to augment disaster response operations in the Visayas. The Coast Guard District Southwestern Mindanao will also deploy 2 vessels, while the Coast Guard Northeastern Mindanao will send one 44-meter vessel. Earlier today, the Philippine Coast Guard Search and Rescue Team flew to Cebu on board the Philippine Air Force's C-130 aircraft. We're taking another breather, a look at how Philippine shares did today when we return. Stay tuned. You're back on Business Brief. U.S. President Donald Trump says Harvard will pay $500 million under a new deal, but the university has yet to confirm it. Trump said his education secretary is finalizing the terms and claimed Harvard has also agreed to operate trade schools. So far, the university has issued no statement on the president's announcement. The Trump administration has been pressuring universities by threatening to withhold federal funds, pointing to pro-Palestinian protests and inclusion policies, among other issues.
Education, Linda McMahon, who's so fantastic, and I guess we reached a deal with Harvard today, so we'll see how that. All you have to do is paper it, right, Linda? Just
yes, sir.
Paper it out. That'll be great, though. It's going to have to do with something that's very important to everybody.
Yemen's Houthi militants claim responsibility for a cruise missile strike on the Dutch-flagged cargo ship Minerva Gracht, which caught fire in the Gulf of Aden. The Houthis' military spokesperson said Monday's attack was launched with a cruise missile. The strike injured 2 sailors and forced the helicopter evacuation of all 19 crew members, including Filipinos. The vessel was sailing in international waters when it was hit. The Houthis have stepped up attacks on commercial shipping in the Red Sea and adjacent waters, saying it is in solidarity with Palestinians amid Israel's war on Gaza. Philippine shares snap its 7-day losing streak as it bounces back into the 60-100 level. The PSEI gains more than 1% to close 60.26, making it the best performer in Asia. All of the sectoral indices are in the green, with mining and oil rising the most at more than 3%. Advancers outnumber decliners 99 to 87, with value turnover reaching 6.8 billion pesos. The day's most active stocks are mixed, with BDO Unibank rising the most at over 4%. On currencies, the peso trades at 58.29 against the US dollar, down from the previous close of 58.20. That's a wrap for today's Business Brief. I'm Mai Rodriguez. Join us again tomorrow as we bring you the stories that help you plan your next big, bold moves in business. Only here on the Bilyonaryo News Channel. See you then.